At his engagement party to a senator's daughter, billionaire Adrian Blackstone's world stopped when he saw her across the room. The quiet black woman in the corner said nothing, did nothing, just watched. But her silence would destroy his arranged marriage and reveal a truth that changed everything forever. Before we dive into this incredible story that nobody saw coming, hit that like button if you're ready for a tale of forbidden love and unexpected karma. And don't forget to subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Picture this. Adrian Blackstone stands in the center of his own engagement party, surrounded by 300 of the most powerful people in the country. And he's never felt more alone in his life. The crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors. Champagne flows like water, and everyone keeps telling him how lucky he is. Lucky to be marrying Victoria Hartwell, the senator's daughter with the perfect smile and the political connections that will secure his business empire for generations. But here's the thing about arranged marriages disguised as love stories. They feel exactly like what they are. Adrian goes through the motions, shaking hands with men who see dollar signs when they look at him, kissing the cheek of a woman who feels more like a business partner than a bride-to-be. Victoria glides through the crowd in her designer gown, every inch the perfect political wife, discussing charity galas and campaign strategies with equal enthusiasm. On paper, they're the power couple everyone envies. In reality, Adrian feels like he's watching his life happen to someone else. The party hums with the kind of energy that only comes when powerful families unite. Adrian's father beams as he discusses merger opportunities with Victoria's political connections. The guest list reads like a who's who of influence. Tech moguls, senators, old money families who've been pulling strings for generations. This isn't just an engagement party, it's a coronation, the official joining of two dynasties that will reshape industries and influence elections. And then Adrian sees her. She's not supposed to be there, not really. While everyone else sparkles under the chandeliers, she moves through the shadows with quiet efficiency. Naomi Rivers, though he doesn't know her name yet, coordinates the evening with the kind of invisible precision that makes great events look effortless. She's beautiful in a way that catches you off guard. Not the obvious, polished beauty of the guests, but something deeper, more real. She wears simple black, her hair pulled back professionally, and she never stops moving, never stops working. What strikes Adrian isn't just her beauty, it's her complete indifference to everything happening around her. While others crane their necks for a glimpse of the billionaire groom, she focuses on her clipboard, adjusting flower arrangements, directing catering staff with quiet authority. She moves like she's carrying something heavy, something that weighs her down even as she works with practiced grace. Their eyes meet across the crowded ballroom, and for a moment, everything else fades away. The laughter, the clinking glasses, the orchestra, it all becomes background noise. Adrian expects her to smile, to acknowledge him the way everyone else does, with that mixture of deference and calculation he's grown used to. Instead, she holds his gaze for exactly 3 seconds, her expression unreadable, then looks away and returns to her work as if nothing happened. That should be the end of it. A moment, nothing more. But as Adrian delivers his engagement speech, talking about commitment and partnership and building a future together, he finds his eyes searching the crowd for her. She's there, in the background, ensuring water glasses stay filled and centerpieces remain perfect. But she never looks his way again, not once. Victoria notices his distraction. Of course she does. She's too smart not to. Her smile never wavers as she links her arm through his, but her grip tightens just slightly, a subtle reminder of what tonight represents. Later, as they pose for photographers, she whispers, "You seem distracted, darling. Everything all right?" Her voice carries just enough edge to let him know she's cataloging this moment, filing it away for future reference. The party ends successfully by every measure that matters. Deals are discussed, connections are made, and the society pages will gush about the romance of the century. But as Adrian lies in bed that night, staring at the ceiling of his penthouse, he can't stop thinking about the woman who looked right through him, not past him, not around him, through him, as if she could see something he didn't even know was there. He doesn't know her name. He doesn't know her story. All he knows is that in a room full of people desperate for his attention, the one person who gave him none has somehow captured his completely. And that terrifies him more than any business deal ever has. Adrian Blackstone built his empire by being methodical, strategic, and relentless. So when he can't stop thinking about a woman whose name he doesn't even know, he does what he does best. He investigates. It starts innocently enough. A casual question to his assistant about the event planning company, a seemingly offhand inquiry about staff quality. Within 48 hours, he knows her name is Naomi Rivers, she's 32 years old, and she's been coordinating events for elite families for 3 years while pursuing her master's in business administration at night. But facts on paper don't explain the weight she carries in her shoulders or the careful way she avoids eye contact with anyone who matters. Adrian finds himself studying her LinkedIn profile like it holds state secrets, scrolling through her minimal social media presence. A few photos of perfectly executed events. No personal pictures, no glimpses into who she is when she's not working. It's like she's deliberately made herself invisible, and that only makes him more desperate to see her. The rational part of his mind knows this is insane. He's engaged to Victoria Hartwell. The wedding is in 6 months. The invitations have been ordered, the venue booked, the merger of two powerful families set in motion, but rationality has never been his strongest suit when he wants something. And apparently he wants to understand Naomi Rivers more than he's ever wanted anything. So he starts showing up. Charity galas he would have sent a check to instead of attending. Corporate events he would have delegated to subordinates. Museum openings, political fundraisers, any event that might require professional coordination. His assistant thinks he's having a midlife crisis. Victoria thinks he's finally taking their social obligations seriously. Neither of them realizes he's hunting for glimpses of a woman who seems determined to remain a ghost. And there she is, event after event, moving through these gatherings like she's choreographing an elaborate dance. She never speaks unless spoken to, never lingers after her work is done, never draws attention to herself. But Adrian starts noticing things others miss. How she anticipates problems before they happen. How staff members relax when she's around. How she can calm a bridezilla with a few quiet words or redirect a drunk guest without causing a scene. The more he watches, the more questions multiply in his mind. Why does she flinch slightly when someone raises their voice? Why does she always position herself near exits? Why does she look at him with something that isn't quite recognition, but isn't quite stranger's indifference either? Meanwhile, his engagement to Victoria becomes a production he's no longer invested in directing. Wedding planners present him with choices between ivory and cream, between orchids and roses, and he nods absently while his mind replays the way Naomi's hands moved as she adjusted a centerpiece. Victoria's frustration grows with each postponed meeting, each delegated decision, each moment when she catches him staring at nothing, or rather, at the memory of someone. "You're not present," Victoria tells him one evening as they review catering options for their reception. Her voice carries the controlled tone she uses when cameras are rolling, but her eyes flash with genuine anger. "This is our wedding, Adrian. Our future. The least you could do is pretend to care about the details." He apologizes, makes the appropriate noises about stress and work obligations. But they both know something fundamental has shifted. Victoria isn't stupid. She's been groomed for political life since childhood, trained to read people and situations with surgical precision. She knows he's elsewhere, even when he's sitting right beside her. The breaking point comes at a charity gala for children's literacy. Adrian spots Naomi near the silent auction tables, quietly replacing bid sheets and straightening display items. This time, he doesn't watch from across the room. This time, he walks directly to her, his heart hammering like he's about to deliver the most important presentation of his life. "Excuse me," he says, and she looks up, those same unreadable eyes meeting his. "I wanted to thank you for the beautiful work you do at these events." She studies him for a moment, and he swears he sees something flicker across her expression. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. "Thank you," she says quietly. "That's very kind." He waits for more, but she's already turning back to her work. "I don't think we should be talking," she adds, so softly he almost misses it. And just like that, Adrian Blackstone realizes he's completely lost. Those 6 words, "I don't think we should be talking," haunt Adrian for weeks, not because of what she said, but because of how she said it. There was something in her voice, a kind of familiar pain that suggested she knew exactly who he was and had reasons for keeping her distance that went far beyond professional boundaries. Adrian Blackstone didn't build a tech empire by accepting surface answers. So he does what he does best. He digs deeper. What he discovers turns his world upside down. The investigation starts with public records, newspaper archives, anything that might explain why Naomi Rivers treats him like a ghost she's trying not to see. At first, he finds nothing unusual. College records, employment history, the typical paper trail of someone who's lived a quiet, unremarkable life. But then his private investigator uncovers something that makes Adrian's blood run cold. 15 years ago, Naomi Rivers was engaged to David Blackstone, his younger brother. The brother who died 3 weeks before his wedding in a car accident that shattered their family and left Adrian's father a hollow shell of grief and rage. The brother Adrian barely mentions because the pain still cuts too deep, even after all these years. David, who was supposed to inherit his portion of the family empire, who was supposed to carry on the Blackstone legacy, who was supposed to live. Adrian remembers that time as a blur of funeral arrangements and legal paperwork, of watching his parents crumble under grief so profound it changed them permanently. He was 25 then, focused on building his own company, only peripherally aware of David's personal life. He knew his brother was engaged, knew there was a woman, but the accident happened so close to the wedding that she seemed to vanish before Adrian ever really met her. Now he understands why. The deeper Adrian digs, the more horrifying the truth becomes. After David's funeral, his father, consumed by grief and looking for someone to blame, had convinced himself that David's fiancée was a gold digger who had distracted his son from family responsibilities. In his twisted logic, if David hadn't been so focused on love, he might have been more careful driving home from their last date before the wedding. Adrian's father had offered Naomi money to disappear from their lives forever. Not because she asked for it, but because he couldn't bear the sight of the woman his son had loved more than family duty. The woman who represented everything David had chosen over the Blackstone legacy. But here's the part that destroys Adrian completely. Naomi never took the money. She disappeared anyway, vanishing from their lives not because she was paid off, but because she understood that her presence was a living reminder of their loss. She had loved David enough to sacrifice her own closure for their family's peace. For 15 years, she's been carrying this secret, this connection to the Blackstones that she's never spoken about. She's been working events for the city's elite, moving through their world like a ghost haunting the life she might have had. Every charity gala, every corporate function, every wedding she coordinates, it's all been a form of penance, staying close to the world that rejected her while never claiming her rightful place in it. Adrian realizes with sickening clarity why she said they shouldn't be talking. It's not about professional boundaries or class differences. It's because she knows exactly who he is. He's the brother of the man she lost, the family member whose father drove her away when she was already drowning in grief. She's been protecting him from a truth she assumed would destroy him the way it destroyed her. The cruel irony isn't lost on him. He's fallen for the same woman his brother loved, but she's been suffering in silence, watching Adrian live the life David never got to have. Every time she's seen him at these events, she's been reliving her loss while ensuring his happiness. She's been the invisible force making his world run smoothly while her own world remained forever broken. When Adrian confronts his father about the truth, the old man's face crumbles. "I thought I was protecting our family," he whispers. "I thought she would take advantage of our grief." But Adrian knows better now. Naomi Rivers didn't disappear because she was a gold digger. She disappeared because she loved David enough to sacrifice everything for their family's peace. And now, 15 years later, she's still making that same sacrifice, staying silent while Adrian's heart breaks for reasons he's only beginning to understand. The wedding is in 2 weeks, and everything Adrian thought he knew about love, loyalty, and family has just been shattered by the truth. The morning of Adrian's wedding dawns perfect, cloudless sky, golden sunlight streaming through cathedral windows, 300 guests arriving in their finest attire. Victoria looks radiant in her custom Vera Wang gown, every detail orchestrated to perfection. The society photographers capture every moment, documenting what everyone believes will be the wedding of the decade. But Adrian stands at the altar feeling like he's about to commit the greatest betrayal of his life. Because coordinating this wedding, ensuring every flower is perfectly placed and every moment runs seamlessly, is Naomi Rivers, the woman who loved his brother, the woman his family destroyed, the woman who spent 15 years in exile, and now fate has delivered the cruelest joke imaginable. She's orchestrating the wedding of the man she was never allowed to call family. Adrian watches her work from the corner of his eye as guests take their seats. She moves with that same quiet efficiency he's come to recognize. But today there's something different in her bearing. Today she looks like a woman walking through her own personal hell with perfect composure. She adjusts Victoria's train, ensures the flower girl has her petals ready, coordinates with the photographer. All while her heart must be shattering with every moment. The processional begins. Victoria glides down the aisle, radiant and confident, everything a political wife should be. The guests rise, cameras flash, and Adrian tries to focus on the woman he's supposed to marry. But his eyes keep finding Naomi in the background, positioned near the side exit where she can manage last-minute details without being noticed. The officiant begins the ceremony, speaking about love and commitment, about two people choosing each other above all others. Adrian recites his lines, goes through the motions, but every word feels like a lie. Not because he doesn't care for Victoria, he does in his way, but because standing there, he finally understands what his brother felt. That desperate, consuming love that makes you willing to give up everything else. Then comes the moment that changes everything. As Adrian begins his vows, promising Victoria a lifetime of partnership and devotion, he sees Naomi quietly slipping toward the exit. She's done her job. The ceremony is running perfectly. She can disappear now, as she's been disappearing for 15 years. But this time, Adrian can't let her go. "I'm sorry," he says, his voice cutting through the sacred words. The church falls silent. Victoria's smile freezes. "I can't do this." He steps away from the altar, away from Victoria's shocked face, away from the gasps of 300 guests. He walks down the aisle, past his horrified parents, past reporters who are frantically switching from wedding coverage to scandal documentation. He follows Naomi through the side door into the church's preparation room, where she's packing up her coordination materials with shaking hands. "I know about David," he says simply. She freezes, her back still turned to him. For a long moment, the only sound is the distant murmur of chaos from the sanctuary. "I know my father paid you to disappear. I know you never took the money. I know you've been carrying this alone for 15 years. His voice breaks. "I know you loved him enough to sacrifice everything. And I know you've been watching me live the life he never got to have." When she finally turns around, tears are streaming down her face. Not the careful, controlled tears of someone trying to maintain composure, but the raw, devastating tears of someone whose carefully constructed walls have finally crumbled. "He was going to give up his trust fund," she whispers. "Your father found out and accused me of manipulating David for money. But David wanted to build something on his own. With me. He didn't want the family legacy. He wanted us to create our own." Adrian understands now why his father was so threatened by her. It wasn't about money. It was about David choosing love over duty, choosing his own path over the Blackstone empire. Their father couldn't handle losing his son to anything, especially not to a woman who represented everything the family couldn't control. "I've been living his life," Adrian realizes aloud. The business empire, the strategic marriage, the duties he walked away from. "I've been trying to be him while you've been honoring who he really was." They stand there in the ruins of his wedding day, two people finally free to speak the truth that's been suffocating them both. Outside, chaos reigns. Victoria's political family scrambles to manage the scandal. Guests whisper and speculate. Photographers capture every moment of the Blackstone family's public humiliation. But inside this small room, 15 years of silence finally finds its voice. And that's how karma works, isn't it? Sometimes it takes 15 years to come full circle, but when it does, it changes everything. Adrian and Naomi didn't rush into some fairy tale romance. Real healing doesn't work that way. They started with conversations, with truth, with finally honoring David's memory instead of running from it. They began visiting his grave together, sharing stories that had been locked away for too long. Earning that love doesn't always look like the movies promise it will. The scandal destroyed Adrian's engagement, cost him political connections, and sent shockwaves through both families. Victoria's humiliation at the altar became tabloid fodder for months. But here's the beautiful irony. All those years of Naomi working invisibly in the elite event world, all those connections she'd built while staying in the shadows, they rallied around her when the truth came out. The very people who had never really seen her suddenly understood the quiet dignity with which she'd carried herself through impossible circumstances. Adrian's father eventually faced the truth about what his grief had cost them all. Some wounds take time to heal, and some apologies can never fully repair the damage done. But sometimes, just sometimes, the person who was meant to be part of your family finds their way back, even after 15 years of exile. This story haunts me because it reminds us that the most powerful words are sometimes the ones we never speak. Naomi's silence wasn't weakness. It was love in its purest form, sacrificing her own happiness for others' peace. And Adrian's last-minute courage to walk away from everything expected of him, that was love too, finally understanding what his brother had been willing to give up. If this story of karma, sacrifice, and second chances touched something deep in your heart, do me a favor. Smash that like button and share this with someone who believes that real love is worth waiting for, even when it takes 15 years to find its voice. Subscribe because I've got more incredible stories that prove the universe has a way of setting things right, even when we think all hope is lost. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Adrian's position? Would you have had the courage to walk away from everything, to honor a love that was never supposed to be yours? Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding someone new. They're about finding the courage to claim the connection that was always meant to be. The truth has a way of surfacing, doesn't it? And when it does, it changes everything.